The Gulf War explained if America won in 100 hours. In August 1990, the world woke up to a shocking headline. Iraq had invaded Kuwait. In less than 48 hours, one of the Middle East's smallest but richest nations was completely occupied. Kuwaiti forces were overwhelmed. The royal family fled, and Saddam Hussein declared Kuwait Iraq's 19th province. At first, it seemed like just another regional conflict. But it wasn't. This invasion would trigger one of the most important wars of the modern era, the Gulf War. To understand why it happened, we need to go back. Throughout the 1980s, Iraq had fought a brutal 8-year war against Iran. By the time it ended, Iraq was exhausted. Its economy shattered and its debt massive. Saddam Hussein believed Kuwait owed Iraq forgiveness for billions of dollars in war loans. He also accused Kuwait of overproducing oil and stealing Iraqi oil through slant drilling. But this wasn't just about money. Saddam wanted power, influence, and control over oil, the most valuable resource on earth. By invading Kuwait, Iraq would instantly control nearly 20% of the world's known oil reserves. Saddam believed the world would protest but not intervene. He was wrong. For the United States, this invasion crossed a red line. If Iraq controlled Kuwait, Saudi Arabia could be next. That would give Saddam enormous leverage over the global economy. President George W. Bush made the US position clear. This aggression would not stand. Within days, the United Nations condemned the invasion and imposed harsh economic sanctions on Iraq. But Saddam refused to withdraw. Instead, he dug in. The United States began assembling one of the largest military coalitions in history. Over 35 nations joined, including the United Kingdom, France, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. This wasn't just an American war, it was a global response. By late 1990, more than 500,000 US troops were deployed to the Persian Gulf. The operation was named Desert Shielded Defensive Mission to protect Saudi Arabia. But everyone knew what was coming next. In January 1991, diplomacy failed, and the war began. Operation Desert Storm opened, and with a shock the world had never seen before. Not tanks, not infantry, air power. On the night of January 17, 1991, American stealth aircraft slipped into Iraqi airspace undetected. They struck command centers, radar stations, and communication hubs with surgical precision. Within hours, Iraq's air defenses were crippled. For the next 38 days, coalition forces controlled the skies completely. Bombers flew around the clock. Runways were destroyed. Supplied depots vanished. Republican Guard units were isolated and cut off. This wasn't traditional bombing. This was a new kind of war. Smart bombs guided by lasers. Cruise missiles launched from ships hundreds of miles away. Stealth technology that radar couldn't see. The Iraqi military was being dismantled piece by piece. For the first time in history, a war was broadcast live on television. CNN showed night vision footage of bombs hitting Baghdad in real time. Americans watched war unfold as if it were a video game. But on the ground, the destruction was very real. Iraqi morale collapsed. Soldiers deserted. Units surrendered without firing a shot. Still, Saddam Hussein refused to retreat. He launched Scud missiles at Israel, hoping to provoke a wider war. But the US deployed Patriot missile systems, intercepting many of them and keeping Israel out of the conflict. By late February, the coalition was ready. The air campaign had done its job. Now came the ground war. On February 24, 1991, coalition forces crossed into Kuwait and southern Iraq. What happened next stunned the world. The ground war lasted just 100 hours. American and Allied troops executed a massive flanking maneuver, sweeping around Iraqi forces instead of attacking head-on. Iraqi defenses collapsed almost instantly. Entire divisions surrendered. Highways filled with destroyed vehicles as retreating Iraqi units were annihilated from the air, a scene later called the Highway of Death. By February 28, President Bush declared a ceasefire. Kuwait was liberated. The war was over. United States had suffered fewer than 300 combat deaths. Iraq's losses were catastrophic, tens of thousands killed. Its military shattered, its infrastructure ruined. To the world, it looked like a flawless victory. But the story didn't end there. Saddam Hussein remained in power. The coalition chose not to march on Baghdad, fearing instability, regional chaos, and a power vacuum. Instead, Iraq was placed under strict sanctions and no-fly zones. Those decisions would shape the Middle East for decades. The Gulf War changed how wars were fought. It proved the dominance of American air power. It showcased technology as the new deciding factor in warfare. And it confirmed the United States as the world's undisputed military superpower after the Cold War. But it also planted the seeds for future conflict. Sanctions weakened Iraq's population. Tensions simmered. And unresolved issues would eventually lead to another war 12 years later. The Gulf War ended quickly. But its consequences did not. History remembers it as a 100-hour victory. But the shadow it cast lasted far longer.